When I pull up on you, then I might swear, ayy. Double off deuce, ayy. That just might work, ayy. When I pull up on you, then I might swear, ayy. Double off deuce, ayy. That just might work, ayy. That just might work.
Welcome back to another episode of the Michel Matters podcast. I'm Jacques Michel.
And I'm Jackie Michel.
Welcome back.
Hey, guys.
Hey, fresh off a little vacay.
Yes.
Back to give you guys another podcast.
Yeah, feeling refreshed.
Yeah, man. Got away. Quick weekend trip.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was good. It was good.
Yeah, it was the first. Well, it was with your side of the family, so it was the first trip that vacation that I've ever taken, really, with your family.
Yeah. I mean,
we've taken trips. Road trips.
Yeah, but Orlando, vacation, like, where we're there to relax.
Jersey, yeah, like nobody's cooking, nobody's driving, nobody's washing dishes.
Nah, this
was the first one. Yeah. It was good.
It was cool.
Interesting.
Yeah, definitely like watching my parents age has been interesting.
Yeah.
So it's a different dynamic. They're empty nesters now and all that, so their interactions are also different. And yeah, I think it was an interesting little trip. I'll just leave it at that. But aside from that, I don't think we got nothing crazy going on. No. Trying to stay consistent or get back consistent.
Yes.
100 episodes is still the goal.
It is.
So let's see. So yeah.
No, I wanted to see if you had any tea left.
No, ma'am.
But yeah, you ready to get into this episode?
Yeah, I think you should lead us in because I don't know why, but you get all the comments about the podcast. People don't really be coming to me like that.
I don't know. Maybe my friends are more invested.
I need to get back on posting more. Maybe I don't post the podcast enough.
I mean, we just posted on the Michel Matters.
I know, but people just
go to me.
Yeah, I don't know why. Maybe I got to make my presence like I'm the other half of the podcast.
There you go.
Like, maybe people need to
let them know. But yeah, so I did get a few comments about our deconstruction pillow talk episode. I don't remember what episode that was, but I can check. And so some people were saying like, oh, that was Pillow Talk 14, episode 89. They were just asking questions. And so because of their questions, I wanted to clarify some things.
Okay.
I don't know how you want to start. Should I just... Because this is kind of like a Listener Matters / Michel Matters mashup.
I like that.
In a way.
So, okay. So what was the first comment or one of the standout comments that you got regarding that deconstruction pillow talk?
Well, I'll just say the first because it wasn't the standout. But the first, which kind of leads to things, is what would you classify your religion as?
Okay.
And I think we talked about this in a previous pillow talk, but I don't know if like deconstructing, quote unquote, changed that for you.
Yeah.
In the You're So Saved pillow talk. I'll link all of these below.
Yeah. So. I don't yeah, I guess I don't really think about it much, right?
Yeah.
Because I think for the most part, even a lot of the denominations are breaking down a lot. So I don't think that's becoming as much of a thing. It's always going to be a thing, don't get me wrong. Some of these denominations are just so big and strong that they'll last forever. But I don't think the affiliations are as strong anymore to some of the denominations. Like, because even the church I grew up in, it was a Southern Baptist church for the longest part of the SBC. I think still a part of the SBC. But for a while, I remember when I was in like, I don't know, maybe I was in like high school, we were considering dropping like out and even changing the name of the church.
Yeah.
Because of like, you know, stigmas and things come with names and certain denominations. And like, I think for me now, I don't think about it as much. I'm always intrigued by what like everything the Southern Baptist Convention does is news because it is like the largest denomination. So they kind of move things. And our church was a part of it, and I know we still have some ties to it. Or our old church. It's just such a interesting topic. But yeah, so yeah, so it's not. I don't know if I claim not religion. What was it? Question? No, they claim religion.
What would you classify your religion?
My religion's Christian.
Yeah. So that's what you call yourself.
But I don't think that's what they meant. I think they know that we're Christian.
But I think they want to know, like, are you Baptist?
Yeah, what denomination?
7-day.
Yeah, I think they want to know what denomination. And I don't necessarily like ascribe or subscribe to any particular denomination.
Yeah, I'm a Christian.
Yeah.
That's it.
I guess that's the way to put it.
All right. So since we did not leave the faith, which is what a lot of people have done after deconstructing, what exactly were we deconstructing? What changed about our life after deconstructing?
Do you want me to go first on that one too, or you go?
I feel you can go first. We can bounce back. You say one, I'll say one.
Okay. So for me, one of the first things, and I don't remember what we spoke about in the first episode, because it was a pillow talk, and I'm pretty sure I was really tired when we did it. But one of the things that I really started to reevaluate is what I thought church should look and sound like. For so long, like, I went to the same church, and you get caught in that routine. You start to think that way is the right way, or that's not necessarily the only way, but
the best way.
Yeah, so you can start to, I don't want to say be critical, but you just look at other styles of church and worship and all those things differently because you get so caught up doing your way and what you've done.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things during the pandemic, at the beginning of the pandemic, like being able to watch so many different like churches and sermons and like different styles of worship and preaching, and even like talking to different people who worship differently. Like, it changed my mindset on what church looks and sounds like. Right. It didn't have to just be one way. And yeah, so it that really opened up my mind a little bit. But yeah, you can go, or you can piggyback off that.
I mean, you said it. That was a big one for me. I think, to move on to another point, one thing I deconstructed was that the word can apply to me, but it's not about me. And so, okay. So I just came from a women's conference like a couple weeks ago. And that was like what she was focusing on. She was like, a lot of women's conferences, it's kind of like, okay, here's what you could do to improve yourself or whatever based on the Bible, which is nothing wrong with that, but that's not the point of the Bible. Like, it's to point you to Christ, to be more like Christ, but yes, to point you to Christ. And so I think because a lot of women haven't gotten a seat at the table for a very long time, passing on the word to women for a long time has been wrong. Like, just teaching has been wrong. And so yeah, I think it's just knowing what the word is for.
Okay.
I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does.
Yeah.
And
like, because we've been told to basically shut up. It's like, okay, here's some incredibly wrong gospel. And so let's pass that down for generation to generation. Yeah.
I think, and I'll tie that in, and then, so I want to tie into that. Okay. And then I want to go back. Okay. And then expound a little bit on what I said in the first one.
Got it.
So to tie into that, because that was one of the things that I really thought about during this whole, and I hate like using deconstruction through the whole process of just reevaluating like how I think and process certain things that we do.
Yeah.
Was I think I wrote down was like my thoughts on how the word is used. So it ties into what you were saying.
Context.
But in a way, like for a long time, I've seen the Bible used like, you know, the Bible is a sword, but I've seen it mostly used to attack and to kind of fight off the enemy or different sins but the word is also meant to bring people in. And for a long time, I didn't see it being as that type of weapon. And not in a way like, I'm not saying it like completely negative, but I think it was an overlooked part of the gospel experience that I was a part of, where I think there's so much room to use the gospel to like heal and mend fences and like progress, and it wasn't used like that. I think especially during the pandemic, we saw such a rise in you know, racial tensions and just like people just talking about social justice in general. And that was a time for me where I felt like the Bible could be used to bring people together, because for so long it was like a separator. But in talks, like, you know, I talk with so many different people, and like one of our friends always says like the Bible is meant to, it can handle anything. And it can handle racial relations, but we have to know how to use it the right way.
Correct.
Like we clearly know how to use it when we want to talk about homosexuality, right? But how do we use it when we want to talk about racial reconciliation or, you know, just whatever, like police brutality? Like it can be used for those things as well. And I think knowing how to use your weapon is key, and that's one thing that I feel like we started to do and figure out throughout this whole thing. So now I want to go back and we can go back and forth, but like, okay, so what did it look like to okay, so like you said, you went to the women's conference. Like what other things did you do to like come to like research or figure out like how you or what your thoughts were on things you deconstructed, I guess. Yeah.
And that was one of our questions too. So we can kind of break that down into different sections.
Okay.
I think obviously going into the word for myself was a big part of that, and also like fleshing out what it was that I understood from whatever I read to other people. And so we were a part of a Devo group during COVID that one of our friends put together. Shout out to him. I'm sure he's listening.
Yeah.
And it was, you know, it was a blessing to us, I think.
Yeah.
And we like recently just met with them
in
like
person.
A month ago.
That's how COVID is. Like people I've talked to probably over 30, 40 times. And that was the first time.
Yeah, because you started working during COVID.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was interesting, like just reading the word for myself and knowing like, okay, I'm going to have to explain to people every day who I don't know. I don't know nothing about them. Like, and it was good. It was like, to me, when people say iron sharpens iron, like that's what I think of now. But yeah, that was like a big one.
Yeah. So that devotional group, and tying into like what deconstruction looked like for us, or for I'll say for us, I would think you probably agree with a lot of this, is that these were not just like, we weren't all the same type of people.
No, not at all.
We're very different. But we definitely had a central, like, we all loved Christ, right? Yeah. We all went to, not all, but most of us went to different churches, so you saw the different styles, and like these are people that I maybe would never have gone to church with, right?
Yeah.
So you can start to like have presuppositions like, man, how do they come to their certain like. So one of the good things when we did it was that, and this changed the way I read the Bible in general, was that we had to read and explain.
Yeah. So
for a long time when I read the Bible, I read it for me.
And then you go to work.
Or whatever, right? But reading those verses, reading those chapters, and then having to explain what my thoughts were to someone else really forced me to be more, to be deeper, to dig deeper, to learn more. But at the same time, hearing other people read sometimes similar chapters and verses, and they had their own, but a different viewpoint, or they pull something different that I don't think is unbiblical. It's just, man, I didn't see it from that point of view. Yeah. Because for a long time, I've read the Bible a certain way. I think a certain way. You study it. So to see how some people come up to just different understandings, but not, and I don't want to say different like we clash, but it was just like, oh man, I really like the way you broke that down, or I may not have thought of it in like such an like existential way. Like I read the Bible for the most part like a seminary student, but like a Southern Baptist seminary student. Right. For a lot of my church experience, that's how I learned. Yeah. So to see other people break down verses and things, and from a whole different mindset, and it opens up the way you think. Yeah. And read the Bible, and I thought that was huge. It was that devotional was really good in understanding where people come from, or how other people think. And yeah, it just kind of takes you out your bubble of your typical Christian think circles. Yeah. If you just stick to one.
Yeah, and it opens your mind to different ways of studying the word. Like, it's not just my way. I could also pull from this source when I'm studying. It doesn't always have to be this pastor or from this, org. Yeah. So, so that was a big thing. Obviously, reading the word for myself, and then being amongst believers, even though we weren't really amongst believers. Yeah. But another one was just looking into other pastors and other churches. Yeah. As much as, as we could, because we weren't there. But I feel like you kind of started this trend in our house.
A little bit.
So, name your favorite. We already know.
I don't like that, but yeah. So for me, someone that I started listening to during the pandemic that, it's so weird, like talking about another girl, man, but like it's been very influential to me. Yeah. Has been Pastor Charlie Dates. He pastors a church in Chicago. And I came across their church through a post from Jackie Hill Perry. Oh. Really? Yeah. But I had seen it way before. Mm-hmm. So when she posted a clip from a sermon. I watched that sermon. Yeah. But I didn't think much of it. Like, I just watched the sermon. I was like, oh, that was pretty good. And that was pre-pandemic. And they had a whole different, like, media ministry. It wasn't as evolved as it became during COVID. Yeah. But then once we started to stay home, because, they weren't letting us go to church, we were able to watch different things. And one time after we watched our typical church service, the church that we were going to at the time, I was like, oh, let's watch this sermon. Mm-hmm. And there's a contrast. It's a very stark contrast between the two. Yeah. And like,
but they were both Baptists. Yeah. So it was interesting, yeah.
They're both Baptist churches, and it was a completely different style of preaching, and
it was also a black church.
Very black. Right.
Like historically.
Yeah, like a historically black church. And it was, at the time, it was the right time, the right person to hear in the moment. So, like, one of the key messages during that time was right after the George Floyd murder. And he has a sermon. You can go back and watch it now. It's called I Can't Breathe. And it was on time.
Yeah.
It was on target.
Yeah.
And it was impactful, right? At the moment. Like, that's what I needed to hear when I felt like a lot of Christians were afraid to touch the topic.
Yeah.
But
I think he also knows who is in his church.
Yeah.
Like, he's preaching in Chicago. You know what I'm saying? So, like, not only is this for, obviously, the body, because everybody understood the pulse of what was happening, but it's also, like, he didn't just preach that Sunday. He been doing this.
Yeah, but that message in
No, I get you, but I'm like,
direct.
That's just, like, his heart.
Yeah.
You know? Like, certain pastors just kind of have a thing.
Yeah, and but if you want to talk about deconstruction, though, for a long time, church in general, they don't touch those topics, right?
It's taboo.
Because not it's taboo, but it's also sticky. Like you don't wanna offend people.
Why not?
And
ain't that what is okay?
So. I'm PC, but I'm not trying to be too PC because whatever, it is what it is. But churches, for the most part, like, how often do we hear about, our Christian culture being the culture that supersedes, like, our race and all these things? So
yeah,
you can hide behind the, like, that's what's going out on, like, that's the world. Don't get caught up in that. Mm-hmm. And that's, to me, antithetical to, like, what Christ stood for or what the Bible stands for.
Yeah.
And to hear someone, like, stand on that and preach that. And also, like, a preacher who didn't hide from, blackness.
Yeah.
And how, whatever, like, if you listen to it, and that was one of the pastors that I really felt like helped me restructure the way I saw, like, when I talked about how we can use the Bible. Those sermons really, really helped me to get to that point.
Yeah.
And just him in general, the person who he is.
Yeah.
And yeah, like Jackie said, once you listen to some of his sermons, you kind of say, like, okay, he didn't put on a show for the George Floyd one. Like, that's how he preaches. Like,
yeah,
that's the viewpoint he been had. Yeah. So, but for a long time, I didn't know that. Okay.
He's also young.
Yeah, he's young. Which is helpful
like,
to me.
What, 40?
Yeah, early 40s now.
So he's got that bite, like that. No, for real. Like,
yeah.
Some people just be set. Like, this is how I've preached for the last 40 years, and so this is what you're getting.
Yeah. So I guess one way to put it is, if you've been a part of certain, like, Christian circles for a long time, you may, if you just heard him, like, sonically, he has a lot of, like, like, traditional black pastor, like, Tennessee. Like, he hoops, he hollers, he cries, he screams, like, he do all that stuff. You can get caught up in, like, okay, this is a lot. That is there's more show than gospel. There's more antics than like, theology.
I wouldn't even call it antics.
Well, I'm saying it for an outsider, for someone who doesn't respect the art of, like, black preaching in that way.
Yeah.
You may think it's a watered down version of the gospel. You may think it's an altered version of the gospel.
But then you're not really listening.
But I think people get turned off by it.
I get you.
And I know people who that type of preacher may not work for them because whatever. Like,
yeah.
They may think less of it because of the diction or the way he, like, says certain things. It's just the way he moves, you know what I mean?
Right.
And
yeah, he gets you riled up.
Yeah, like, he gets riled up.
So the pastor that I'm gonna bring up, he's kind of like on the opposite end of that.
Yes.
So I'm not gonna say he's my favorite, but after watching, I'm like, okay, like this guy gets it. Like he preaches to me, and that's David Platt, and he's at McLean Bible Church in Virginia.
Yeah,
like that whole DMV situation, and so while dates gets you wound up, Platt makes you cry. So
Platt cries.
Platt cries. I'm the type of person, like, I want to cry every Sunday. Like, not that I want to, but, like, I'm, like, you gotta hit me right here. Yeah. Like, at the center. And he does that. And he's really like that. When you talk about somebody who actually cares about, like, people who may not know the gospel at all from, like, whatever country they're from. Yeah. Or, adoption, like just stuff that Christians do, but we don't really do that for real, you know? Like, you really live in this thing for real?
Yeah, like going himself like on these random remote countries and staying there for months at a time. And
like he'll have like prayer meetings, like come out and we'll see, like, you know, is the Lord kind of leading you to spend 6 months in some off-grid place? And he's like dead serious. Yeah, we'll watch, and I'm like, ain't nobody going to this meeting, sir.
Somebody must, because he be sending out missionaries, and they come from his church.
Yeah, so I just love what they're doing there. Of course, we've never been to these churches for real, so we don't know. But like from what we can see, they're definitely like they're doing the Lord's work, you know. And so I love David Platt, and his books are really good. I read Radical,
which is most popular book.
Yeah. So yeah, if you have time and if you want to cry, and if you're the type of Christian like me who's like, I need to feel it, and I feel every emotion. Yeah, he's that.
The thing with Platt for me is, like you said, he cares. Like, you see it. He lives it. So one of the things that also like pushed us, like the way we even found Platt was there's a series on YouTube called The Elephant Room, like sessions.
Years ago.
You can look it up. They're from like 2011, I think. Yeah. But we watched them, and he's on there, and like one of the things that he spoke about was missions and how they are so focused on missions, like they cut budgets in different areas. And one of the jokes was like, but I think it was also a true story. He cut out of the budget, I think it was like animal crackers for the kids.
I think it was goldfish.
And maybe it might have been goldfish. And he was, you know, put that in the missions because there are kids out there who don't have goldfish, like who need it more than our kids who got goldfish that they toss on the floor and then throw in the garbage can and don't eat type stuff.
And it wasn't on some like super strict, you know, like they still had a budget for the kids. Like the kids was going to eat their snacks. But like, do we need this many goldfish?
Yeah, it didn't have to be excessive. Yeah. And I like really resonated with just his heart for people. You can hear it in the way he preaches. You can see it like through the way he works. And then he also, so like when you see a Pastor Charlie Dates talk about social justice and how, you know, racial inequities exist, it's one thing. But when you see a pastor like David Platt, you know,
who's also like 40s-ish white man,
and he is just as passionate. It also hits different. Like it makes you think, okay, it's not just black people who see it. There are, it's a Christian issue. It's a world issue, and world issues are Christian issues. Like you don't have to separate the two. Right. And for so long, you've seen churches and pastors separate the two. So those two people in general, for me, really like, oh my, I was like, okay, I'm not crazy for feeling the way that I feel. Mm-hmm. there. You don't have to be afraid of words like intersectionality, right? Like the Bible can handle that.
Yeah.
Intersections do exist. And it's like, yeah, we can. There are examples of two people I think really like display that well, and we have learned a lot from them. I think. In just this time period of learning, those are the two pastors I think we definitely learned a lot from.
I think so too. That was gonna mention one more pastor.
Good.
Even though we don't really watch his sermons like that, but I think just as another brother in Christ, I guess, like he would be cool to just have a conversation with. In seeing how he lives his life is John Onwuchekwa, and he pastors in Atlanta, Cornerstone Church, and I just like to listen to him speak about stuff, like not even preaching. And then seeing just him and his wife, how they are pretty open about stuff and go on podcasts, and I don't know, like they're doing a lot in Atlanta. And they also do things outside of church, which normalizes them as regular people. Like they just started a business, which we'll talk about later, but it's like seeing a pastor like, oh, you also have a business, like that's not tied to like your books or your testimony or whatever. Like that's cool to me. So you can check those three out.
And one thing on John O2 that ties him in with dates, I want to say it was last year. But both of them had churches that were in the Southern Baptist Convention, and they both pulled out of the Southern Baptist Convention around the same time. And they both each wrote individual like letters or articles about it.
Right.
And I thought it was interesting takes. And just seeing the thought process for people who are also deconstructing or reevaluating the way they do church and how church should be. That was also helpful to me, who was also kind of going through a transition in my mind of what that looked like. So. I really like that. And John knows they're just solid people. Solid people.
From what we can see.
Yes.
All right. So other teachers, this is when I get my woman on. I'm not going to name all of them because then I would just be here all day. But the main two, obviously, Jackie Hill Perry. I just left her conference. That was the one I was talking about. I think what makes her so interesting is not just her testimony, because obviously I cannot relate. Like I'm reading her Gay Girl Good God book right now, and I'm just like, man, we are, I feel like there's the Christians who like, I was out here, and then God just changed my life in my bedroom. And then there are others who are like, I've been going to church, and you thought you were saved, but you really wasn't, for real. And so we're just like on different sides to this, but she can teach down. Like, I'm like, who are you? Like, so there are just some women that I'm just like, man, God is using you for real. But just even if you just go on her Instagram or their YouTube or whatever, I'm sure there are some nuggets on like how you could study, what books you could read. Also, like pastors, obviously, you said you saw Charlie Dates on her page. Pastors you can like listen to, and her Glory event was amazing. I'm like, I don't know how I can ever go to like another women's conference that's like just surface. Because that was like, where is my pen? Like, I'm taking notes. Like, this is what I'm here for. Like, literally going to Atlanta for this, and everything else is like around it, But she does it.
Jackie Hill Perry,
and she's also normal.
Is probably one of my favorite people to listen to talk about almost anything, but mostly Christian topics. Because I like, she is I don't think before this she was formally trained, right? I was
she's
introduced
in seminary
to her
now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So before, like, I thought she was good before she went to seminary. Now she's in seminary. Like, oh, like she's gonna turn out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not in a bad way, but I was introduced to her through her poetry. We saw them Poets in Autumn.
Oh yeah, we did. That was years ago.
Years ago, and since then, like, I just followed her and kind of just watched her grow more into like a speaker and then teacher. Like, she's like really good at this. Hearing her talk she does a lot of like hits on Gospel Coalition, which we'll, I guess, go into a little bit later. Yeah. But like, she just pops up a lot of places. And she's a young person that I think because she isn't formally trained, she's not necessarily confined by certain like, oh, if you've ever read this book by Bonhoeffer, like, you know what I mean? Like, she doesn't think in those ways, but she's still so deep. It's like, oh my gosh, like, you can think deeply and not have been formally trained. And like, just to hear her thought process, I think to me, she's one of my favorite people to hear talk as a young Black person who's in these spaces where a lot of times you are surrounded by whatever, like people who are different from you. She doesn't act a certain way. I think she's pretty consistent in like her Blackness, which in a lot of Christian spaces, I feel like people sacrifice their Blackness to be in these spaces. Yeah. And she doesn't. Right. And she's smart as heck. She is. And she has, so that this doesn't have anything to do with anything, but like, her husband is kind of in the same field-ish, but I just wonder, like, man, what that house is like, because to have a wife who's that gifted, right? And people always expect men to kind of be the spiritual, like, even mental leaders in their household. What it's like to live with somebody who's that gifted. Right. It's kind of like...
Well, I guess that's easy to say just because she puts herself out there also. I mean, he has a social media or whatever, but he's not like doing tours and stuff.
Yeah,
so,
he ain't that. Like,
right. So we don't know what his gifting is.
We can assume because we hear him talk.
But we don't know.
We hear him talk. Like, he does things. He talks. We listen to their podcast. He does like his he does like a apologist. Like, he does street ministry. He's smart. Yeah. He ain't her, right?
And she ain't him.
No.
I just want to be clear.
What I was getting at is what that means, right? Because I don't think of him as less of a spiritual leader in his household. Right. But it's one of those things, like,
from the outside, people would think that.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like, when we talk about things that sometimes you just can't control. If you marry who was she going to marry? No, seriously. If you have to be like it's
like,
those,
I want to find someone on my level.
Yeah.
In all areas.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, who was she going to marry?
No.
It's certain women like who are you just like they're rich. Like, who are they going to marry? Is the man less of the leader of the household because his wife makes more than him, or she's more gifted in theology than him? Right. Those things, it just makes you, maybe that's not what that's about per se. You don't have to have the most head knowledge, but it's the way you walk and lead in that way. Exactly. But their relationship makes me think, because you don't see it often because women aren't pushed in that way, I feel like. Yeah. So to see a woman who is out there, like, everybody knows your wife is gifted. Yeah. And it's like, oh my gosh, she wears the spiritual pants in that household. But does she, right? Like, who knows? But that's
because you don't know nobody's shortcomings.
Yeah.
Right.
But that man might still lead her in the way that she needs to be led.
Yeah, he has to.
But yeah, sorry.
I guess I'll keep this next one brief. Jen Wilkin, she is nothing like me. I'm pretty sure probably in her 40s.
Maybe.
Or early 50s, maybe? Late 40s, early 50s. She's a white woman. She has 4 college-age kids. We are nothing alike. But she is also a really great teacher.
Yeah.
So if you go on YouTube and look up some of her stuff, she also has some pretty good devotionals on the Bible app that I've done. She has great books too. So she's kind of like, I feel like they're kind of on the same level, honestly. Jen Wilkin and Jackie Hill Perry. Yeah, Jen just it's just different. Yeah, it's just different. So, but yeah, they both teach down.
Yeah.
Any other teachers, or you want to move
on? Not that I just want to call out like that.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I listen to like other pastors and stuff, but none that I want to call out like that. Okay. But those definitely are the ones that stand out. You picked a good group.
Okay. I'm gonna skip over books.
Yeah, because my book selection is not as deep.
Yeah. If anything, we'll probably do we could do a books story on Instagram.
Okay. Yeah.
I think that would be interesting.
I like that.
But yeah, what about other
just ways and
channels and resources?
Okay, so something that we didn't have down, and I'll just run through it pretty quick.
Oh.
Sorry.
What is it?
Well, no. It's it's in this realm, but so in reading the Bible, some things that I've started to do differently is reading with word studies. So I have an app that I use. Should have looked this up. I want to say it's called Parallel Plus.
That sounds right.
It's a Bible app, and you can cross-reference it with so if you read a verse the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want, you can click shepherd and it'll give you a word study on shepherd and what it means in different places where that version of the word comes up in the Bible. So you can kind of
translation
so you kind of
language
context.
Right.
Yeah, so that was one.
That's good.
And then reading with commentaries just to kind of get some more depth, and kind of helps me analyze a little bit the things that I read, because first and foremost, because we're gonna mention a lot of other stuff, but the text is what comes first.
Yes, of course.
Reading my Bible and understanding, what I'm reading, instead of just taking things at surface level or just everything that pastors have told me, kind of just digging on my own a little bit.
Yeah.
So doing my own, I've had my own little pet projects. I did a project on, what does it mean to love your neighbor, right? So that was something where I would go through and I would read, the verses about the two commandments, and just dig into that and what does neighbor mean, and just stuff like that. And I think that really has helped me into coming up to my own conclusions and thoughts. But the reading with the Parallel Plus, different commentaries have really helped.
Yeah, commentaries are good.
Yeah.
Do you have any that stick out to you, or commentaries that you kind of go to from different people? Or yes. I guess people we've named already.
The commentaries that I typically read are Spurgeon. I like Enduring Word because they have an app. And
what is that, Piper?
No, it's some church and I forgot.
Oh.
But the way they do is they compile other commentaries, and they kind of put it together. So Enduring Word is one that I like to use too.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay, so some other biblically based channels that we listen to, whether for podcasts, YouTube, whatever. Articles. I think Gospel Coalition is one.
Yeah, big one.
I don't go there often, I'm not gonna lie. It really just depends on who's writing the article.
Yeah, or the video.
For me, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, Gospel
I love that resource though.
It is.
It's a great resource,
I
but
think so.
I don't
vet everything.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
Vet your own stuff.
Yeah.
But Gospel Coalition, they definitely put out a lot of good videos. They have different series and stuff that they'll do.
Yes.
So I think it is a good they do a lot of topical stuff between their blogs and their YouTube. So you can look up certain topics, and they'll have somebody's done some of the research for you. It's of course, vet everything you read, but they're a good publication.
Yeah.
What was I gonna say? Okay. So similar to Gospel Coalition. Now this one is not controversial, but I still use like Desiring Word. That's John Piper.
Yeah. For
things that are very like,
I'm not gonna lie,
fact based.
Piper. He be on it sometimes.
It's one of those
sometimes
things. You gotta know who to go for what topics. He's one of those people. So when I need like whatever word analysis or something in depth, I think Piper is a great resource. So Desiring God is his blog, or I don't know what they call those things anymore. But he has a website called Desiring God, and they have a lot of topics.
Oh my gosh!
That you can research.
Preaching for decades.
Yeah, and he does a lot of the FAQs, like why do bad things happen to good people? Like all those types of questions, he's broken down multiple times.
Yeah, I may not go to him for like advice on my life per se, but he preaches. Yeah. Yes. But he's just very absolute with stuff. Yeah. And I am not.
It depends on what it is.
It depends on what it is, yeah.
Depends on what it is.
And I'm like, I don't know where you got that from. But yeah, I'm always on YouTube. So a big one for me that I'm subscribed to is the Jude 3 Project by Lisa Fields. And she's in Jacksonville. So that's another like, Florida girl. She just has very interesting interviews and videos on there that kind of make you like sit and wonder, okay, so maybe I'm not the only person doing this, or maybe I'm not the only person wondering like what is happening right now amongst Christians, because I'm not alone. So and then sometimes I'm like, I can't resonate with this at all, but it's cool to listen to what other people have to say, and then kind of from there gather what you would share if you ran across a person like this or came across a person like that. So yeah, I think I like that channel.
I'm big on podcasts. So one of the podcasts that I really like is Pass the Mic. It's with Jamar Tisby and I can't remember the other guy's name, but Jamar is like he's like an author. I want to say he's also a professor.
He's not a preacher? Oh, okay.
I never listened to one of his sermons if he is. Yeah. But so they tackle a lot of topics from Black male perspective. It's two Black guys, but Christian. Mm-hmm. And it's something I can relate to, resonate with. So I like to listen to them. And just I want to say they have like the Black Reform Network. Don't quote me on that. But they also have a website also that they are affiliated with, that I like to check out from time to time.
Gotcha. I don't know if they're affiliated with this podcast.
They're not.
Okay, because every time I see them, I'm like, do they know each other? Like,
they do.
Okay, so the podcast that I would mention is called Truth's Table, and it's 3 women, Christina Edmondson, Akimini, I don't know last name. Yeah. Akimini, Christina, and Michel. Yeah. So it's a really good podcast. They kind of like have their seasons where they discuss certain things. So like this season is like We're Gonna Learn Today, and so they'll have, I think one episode was about Black homeschooling. But it was like a Christian woman who was coming on talking about why people would homeschool their kids, and it was really interesting. And I actually had a friend in my car while we were listening who homeschools her kids. And yeah, she has like people who are in the industry, or they have people who are in the industry come on and talk about different things. I want to say someone from BET was on there. I don't remember if it was BET or TV1. It might have been TV1. But then they also talk about just everything, like Christian stuff. Yeah. And they're also, I think, in their late 40s or mid 40s. Mm-hmm.
Kimberly's probably younger than that.
Oh, yeah. She's the youngest one, I think. So to see or to hear their points of view and them coming from certain church spaces to now is interesting too. So if you ever want to drive and listen to a podcast, that's a good one.
Yeah. One other, it's not like a series or anything, but it was a video that really impacted me, was Nabil Qureshi's testimony. Nabil was a Muslim who ended up converting to Christianity. I want to say it was during college.
Yeah. He had an entire YouTube channel, so he has more videos than just...
Yeah, so I would definitely recommend watching it, though. I want to say it's like an hour and a half long or something like that. But just his story, and when he talks about his conversion and how he got there, it really resonated with me as a Christian. I won't spoil it. I mean, it's out there. But he did talk about how, some of the differences between being a Christian, being a Muslim. He was saying that if Christians really believed what they say they believe, then he couldn't understand how no one had, like, he was around so many Christians, but no one had talked to him about Christ. Mm-hmm. And his conclusion was either they don't believe what they say or they don't care about me. And it really resonated with me, like, man, what does that look like for us who, are Christians? Man, are we living out what the Bible says? Because these other religions, they live it out. A lot of these people are very committed. And I think there are some things we could learn from it. And some things I've learned through that testimony.
Yeah. I remember there was, if you do go to the YouTube channel, just like go to stuff, from when he was in the hospital to before.
Oh, because his wife took over.
Yeah, his wife is taking over. And I remember, I think she was, I don't know if she was either dating someone else or something. And then he, made an appearance on the channel. I was like, sis, what are you doing? Just keep this man.
Don't do that.
Yeah. So just, watch from when he's, even he's recording videos in the hospital. I think we watched those. Uh-huh. And I was like, you really preaching the gospel right now? And you can die, at any moment. Yeah, it was crazy. So, yeah, definitely check that out.
And I just have two more. I don't know. If you have any more. So my last two are the elephant room videos. Those are the videos I said where we first met or learned of, David Platt. So our first one, Matt Chandler, different pastors. I didn't mention Matt Chandler before, but that's another pastor that I'll watch from time to time. So yeah.
No, that was a shade. That was
okay. But they have a lot of they talk about a lot of big topics, and I feel like I learned a lot from those videos as well. Mm-hmm. So I would recommend watching those. And then the last one is actually an Instagram account that I follow. It's called And Campaign, AND Campaign, and it's a Christian political platform, or I guess platform. Yeah. And they are very big on they're centralists to me. And they kind of just urge Christians to reconsider the way they view politics, and that really resonated with me during the last 2 years. And I've also kind of did my little mini projects on that as well. But I would definitely recommend following that Instagram account. I think it's super helpful, and it really shows you how a lot of our current political beliefs are toxic to Christianity, and it turns more people away than brings people together, and that's, once again, antithetical to the Bible. So I would definitely recommend that resource.
Yes. Another podcast that we have been listening to, well, I don't know, it's about to end soon, but if you ever do want to listen to Christian Mess, it is...
I'm not going to recommend this. I'm not recommending
Why?
This. Because...
I think it's introspective, because it's that really made us think, man, can think about your own church. Is there a rise and fall of your own church?
So you gotta intro it.
Okay. I mean, I don't know how else to intro it.
Or say what it is, I'm saying.
Okay, it's the rise and fall of Mars Hill Church.
Yeah.
It was a church by Mark Driscoll.
Who's on the Elephant Room videos as well.
Yes, which, if you watch the videos, it's like, oh, of course.
You should watch the videos, and I'm surprised no one has done like a before and after of all the people who are in those videos. Yeah,
and you watch the Elephant Room videos, it's like, of course this is where they are. Like, it just makes sense.
Yeah,
like,
but that's a fun project. Do it. Where are they now?
Because God ain't playing games with y'all. But you can listen to like maybe the first 5 episodes of this podcast because they're overdoing it now.
Yeah.
But it's very interesting to see like how personality comes into play in certain churches, how people view growth in a church,
Christian celebrity and how that affects churches.
Yeah.
So yeah. Now for that, I guess, but it got to a point where it gets a little too messy for me.
Yeah. That's why I'm like, the first 5 episodes, you should be fine.
Yeah. So yeah, that went on way longer than I thought. But
same.
But I do like that we're able to kind of get it out. Some of the things that we learn from, inspired by. Yeah. And once again, if you guys have any resources that you like,
share with
send them back. We're always looking for new things. We'll give you credit on the podcast if it's any good.
Yes, if it's good. But yeah, let's move on.
All right.
All right, for this episode's business spotlight, we are spotlighting one of the pastors. Well, not a pastor, but one of the pastors we mentioned, and his coffee shop. Mm-hmm. Him and his partner's coffee shop. So this is Portrait Coffee, and I just bought a bag of Portrait Coffee the other day. They roast their beans in Atlanta, in the West End. So I'm not too familiar with the history of Atlanta, but I guess this part is like historically Black. And so they're trying to bring business to that area. And so it's him and 2 other guys. I don't know their name, and his wife, and they have a whole team. I bought a coffee that is from Uganda. Okay. I think it's Uganda Rwenzori. So that's the bag that I bought. And it's like a medium roast. So I don't know much about coffee. I just know that when we go to certain cafes, I get certain things and it tastes good. So I like stuff that tastes good. I don't just drink coffee because it's going to wake me up, because it doesn't. Actually, hot coffee makes me go to sleep. So I got it because I was like, this is kind of a cool thing to learn how to do. Like the art of making coffee, especially good tasting coffee. So I just like oat milk lattes. Okay. So this is a good base for it. And I'm drinking that right now. That's why I keep looking at my cup. I put some vanilla in there. I put some lavender in there. It tastes really good. And they're all about just like letting people know that coffee is actually not a European thing, even though we associate coffee with Starbucks. Okay. Coffee only grows in places that like Black people are. And I thought that was interesting. Yeah. So their slogan is pouring a new narrative. And I was like, I want to support. So they do have like Costa Rican coffee as well, but I think their main coffee is like Ugandan coffee and Ethiopian coffee, I think. But check out the website. We'll post, their socials and all that stuff. It tastes really good. Yeah. It took me a while to get it together, but I'm learning. And then hopefully I get to the point where I can make a little cute design in my latte.
So
yeah.
I'm not a coffee drinker. Yeah. But I'll try it.
I think I like iced lattes better than hot. So I think I'm gonna do that next.
I think I'm just gonna do regular coffee.
Black?
Yeah. I'm gonna try it. But one thing I do know about it, depending on where you are, they may be in your local Target. Oh. I know they're in some Target stores, so you can check that out. Portrait Coffee. Yes. Is the name.
Yes. And I think the one that I have has like hints of, this is what they say, I don't taste it. Hints of blueberry.
Okay.
Jam. Oh no, I'm sorry. Blackberry jam, cane sugar, and cocoa.
Okay. Yeah, I'll give it a try.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a whole bag. And when we got the package, I opened it and I just smelled it. I was like, this smells so good. You know, like when you walk inside a coffee shop, it's like, I know this black would probably just taste disgusting. But it smells so good. Like, I didn't even open the bag. I opened the packaging. And I was like, this is going to be good.
I'll let you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, check those out.
We're definitely tea people, but yeah. I wanted to support.
We'll put all the links below. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube. Follow us on Instagram at Michel Matters. And yeah, talk back to us. I'll always remember to post the voicemail number in the podcast.
Yes.
And talk back to us. So
yeah.
All right.
Bye.
See ya.
When I pull up on you, then I might swear, ayy. Double off deuce, ayy. That you might work, ayy. When I pull up on you, then I might swear, ayy. Double off deuce, ayy. That you might work, ayy. That you might work. That you might work.